All right, so today we're diving deep into a company that's been making some serious waves in the AI world.
Yeah, CoreWeave, right?
Exactly, CoreWeave. You've probably heard the name, especially with all the buzz around AI infrastructure and their recent IPO.
Oh, for sure. Their IPO is huge.
Yeah, it was a pretty big deal. So we've got a lot to unpack here. We're going to trace their journey from their, humble beginnings to becoming this major force in AI.
Okay, that sounds interesting. So where do we even begin with a story like that?
Well, believe it or not, CoreWeave didn't actually start out in the AI space. Their roots go back to 2017.
2017. What were they doing back then?
Crypto mining?
Crypto, really?
Yep. Back then they were called Atlantic Crypto, and their focus was on mining Ethereum.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty different world than AI infrastructure.
Yeah, talk about a pivot, right? But, and this is key, even back then, they were heavily reliant on GPUs.
GPUs, graphics processing units.
Yeah, those things.
Yeah.
So unlike regular CPUs, GPUs are really good at parallel processing, which makes them super efficient for the kind of intense calculations needed for both crypto mining and AI, as it turned out.
Ah, so that's the connection. That makes sense.
Exactly. So fast forward to 2018. Remember that big crypto downturn?
Oh, yeah. Things got pretty rough for a lot of folks in the crypto space.
Right. Well, that downturn was a turning point for CoreWeave. They had all this GPU infrastructure just sitting there.
So they had to figure out what to do with it all.
Exactly. And they were smart. They recognized that the value of their hardware went way beyond just crypto.
So they shifted gears.
They did a complete 180.
Yeah.
In 2019, they rebranded as CoreWeave and jumped headfirst into cloud computing infrastructure.
So they essentially repurposed all that GPU power they had for crypto and started offering it to others who needed serious computing power.
You got it. And that turned out to be a pretty brilliant move. They were early to recognize the growing demand for the kind of power needed for AI applications.
And that demand has just exploded, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. So let's jump ahead to 2022. By this point, they had 3 data centers up and running in the U.S., and they made a crucial decision. They invested like $100 million in Nvidia's H100 GPUs.
Wow, 100 million, that's a serious commitment.
It was a huge signal that they were all in on AI. These H100 GPUs are specifically designed for the really heavy lifting that AI and machine learning require.
Okay, so they had the hardware, but how did they actually break into the AI scene?
Well, they did something really interesting. In October of 2022, they launched an accelerator program specifically for AI startups.
Ah, smart move. Help the up-and-comers, get them hooked on your platform.
Exactly. They offered these startups compute credits, discounts on their services, and even access to their cutting-edge hardware.
It's like giving them a taste of the good stuff. Get them on board early.
It was a win-win. It fostered innovation in the AI space, and it helped CoreWeave build a solid customer base from the ground up.
Makes sense. So all this investment, all this strategic focus, did it pay off?
Oh, yeah. 2022 and 2023 were huge growth years for them.
Yeah.
They landed some big clients, including Stability AI.
I've heard of Stability AI. They're a big deal in generative AI.
Right, that's the one. And to keep up with the demand, they went on a major expansion spree. Like, we're talking thousands of miles of new fiber optic cable laid in 2023 alone.
Whoa! Thousands of miles. That's insane.
It just goes to show the scale of infrastructure needed to support the whole AI revolution.
It's mind-boggling, really. So things are moving fast. What were some of the big moments leading up to their IPO?
Well, 2024 was a whirlwind. In May, they secured a massive funding round, $1.1 billion, led by Coatue Management.
Okay, 1.1 billion. That's serious money. How much were they valued at after that round?
Around $19 billion, which is, not bad at all.
Yeah, not bad at all. And then Nvidia invested in them as well, right?
Yeah, that was a big one. By August of 24, Nvidia had pumped a total of $100 million into CoreWeave.
100 million from the leading GPU manufacturer. That's a pretty big vote of confidence.
For sure. And then there were rumors swirling around that Cisco was considering an investment as well.
Cisco. Wow, they were really attracting attention from the heavy hitters.
It seemed like everyone wanted a piece of the action.
Mm.
And around that same time, they secured a $650 million credit line.
So they had plenty of cash to fuel their growth.
They were ready to scale up big time. And then in March of 2025, they filed their Form S-1, the document companies file before going public.
Ah, so that's when things started to get really interesting. What did that filing reveal?
Well, one big revelation was that Microsoft was a huge customer, like a really huge customer. They accounted for 62% of CoreWeave's revenue in 2024.
62%? Wow, that's a lot of eggs in one basket.
It was a little bit of a red flag for some investors. But CoreWeave also made a significant acquisition that same month. They bought Weights and Biases, an AI platform developer, for about $1.7 billion.
So they're expanding their offerings, trying to become more than just an infrastructure provider.
Exactly. And then they landed a truly massive deal, a 5-year, $12 billion cloud computing contract with, drumroll please, OpenAI,
$12 billion, that's unbelievable. A company that created ChatGPT.
the one and only. That deal was a game changer, not just because of the money, but because it helped diversify their customer base. Less reliance on Microsoft.
Yeah, that makes sense. Spreading the risk a bit.
And finally, the moment everyone was waiting for. On March 28, 2025, CoreWeave went public, raising $1.5 billion in their IPO.
The biggest AI-related IPO ever, if I recall correctly.
That's right. It was a landmark moment for them and for the AI industry as a whole.
So from humble beginnings in the world of crypto mining to this massive IPO, what a journey.
It really is an incredible story. But let's take a step back for a second and talk about what CoreWeave actually does, their core business.
Sure. What's their bread and butter?
In a nutshell, they provide cloud-based GPU infrastructure, specifically optimized for AI and machine learning.
So they're kind of like the backbone for a lot of AI development.
Yeah, think of them as providing supercomputing power on demand. They give their customers access to high-performance computing centers, the kind of horsepower you need to train and deploy complex AI models.
So they're different from the big cloud providers like Amazon or Google.
Yeah, it's a more specialized offering. Their whole platform is purpose-built for AI. It's all about scalability, massive parallel processing power, and super fast networking.
So they're really catering to the specific needs of AI developers.
And they pride themselves on 24/7 support. They know that for their clients, this infrastructure is mission critical.
So what are some of the things that set CoreWeave apart? What are their big selling points?
Well, they tout enhanced performance and efficiency specifically for AI workloads. Their platform has built-in automated cluster health lifecycle management, which is, essential for keeping these massive AI deployments running smoothly.
And they have those strong partnerships with companies like Nvidia, right?
Oh yeah, those partnerships are crucial. It allows them to fine-tune their hardware and software for optimal AI performance.
It sounds like a pretty sophisticated operation. Can you break down their product offerings a bit more?
Sure, they've got compute services delivered through a Kubernetes native environment, which gives developers a lot of flexibility and scalability.
Kubernetes, that's the container orchestration platform, right?
Yep, that's the one. They also offer flexible storage solutions that can handle the huge data sets that are typical in AI. And of course, high-performance networking is key. You need to move data quickly between compute and storage.
Low latency is crucial, especially for training AI models.
Absolutely. And they've also got managed software services, cluster health management, and a whole platform for observability, security, and all those essential machine learning tools.
Sounds like they've got a pretty comprehensive suite of offerings. So we talked about that Microsoft dependency earlier. That's going to be a concern for them, right?
Yeah, it's definitely something to watch. Remember, in 2024, Microsoft made up a whopping 62% of their revenue. That kind of concentration always carries risk.
What if Microsoft decides to go in a different direction?
That's the worry. Any significant change in Microsoft's demand or their relationship with CoreWeave could have a major impact on their bottom line.
So how are they addressing that risk?
Well, that massive OpenAI contract we talked about is a big part of the solution. That deal is expected to bring Microsoft's contribution down to under 50% of their future committed contract revenues.
So they're trying to diversify their income streams.
Exactly, and that's crucial for long-term stability.
Okay, that makes sense. What about their overall financial performance? You mentioned some pretty impressive revenue growth, but also some significant losses.
Yeah, they had a phenomenal year in 2024, with revenues skyrocketing by like 700%.
700%, that's remarkable. How much revenue did they bring in total?
They hit $3.1 billion, which is pretty incredible considering where they started.
That's true. But they also reported a net loss of over $863 million. How do you square those two things?
Well, those losses are largely due to their massive investments in expansion, building out their data center infrastructure, acquiring companies like Weights and Biases, and so on.
It's like they're in hyper-growth mode. Spend money to make money.
It's a risky strategy, but it could pay off big time if they manage to capture a dominant share of the AI infrastructure market.
High risk, high reward, I guess. So looking ahead, what's the outlook for CoreWeave?
Well, there's a lot of optimism surrounding the company. They're in a prime position to capitalize on the AI boom. They've got those strong partnerships with Nvidia and OpenAI.
And they're planning to keep expanding their data centers and their service offerings.
Yeah, and they're working to diversify their customer base even further. The demand for high-performance computing for AI is only going to go up, so they're in a good spot.
But it's not all smooth sailing, is it?
No, they definitely face some challenges. They've got a fair amount of debt, and customer concentration is still a concern, even with the OpenAI deal.
And they can't afford to ignore the competition. Amazon, Google, Microsoft, those are some pretty big players in the cloud space.
Yeah, the competition is fierce. So managing that debt, continuing to diversify their revenue, and staying ahead of the curve technologically, those are going to be key to their long-term success.
It's a classic David and Goliath scenario in some ways. Can they outmaneuver the giants?
Only time will tell. But their journey so far has been pretty remarkable. From crypto mining to a leading AI infrastructure provider, it's a testament to their adaptability and vision,
It's a great example of how quickly industries can be disrupted and reshaped.
and how important it is to be able to anticipate those changes and adapt accordingly.
I think what's really fascinating is how CoreWeave, a company that emerged from the cryptocurrency boom, has managed to ride the wave of the AI revolution. It makes you wonder what other seemingly unrelated technologies might converge in the future to create new opportunities.
Yes, food for thought. What's the next big thing, and who are the unexpected players who will emerge?
It's an exciting time to be following the tech world. Who knows what's around the corner?
Well, that about wraps up our deep dive into CoreWeave. It's a story of rapid growth, strategic pivots, and the ever-evolving world of AI infrastructure.
It's a reminder that in the tech world, things can change incredibly fast.
That's for sure. Be sure to join us again next Friday for another deep dive into a topic that's shaping our world.
We'll see you then.
All right, take care.